Okay. So we talked about making a outline. Okay. Do you remember why we make an outline? What it helps us do?
No.
Do it? No, you don't remember? So the outline helps us so that we know where our story is going. It kind of helps us organize it. If we don't have a plan, have you ever heard the saying, if you planned to fail, you failed. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If you don't have a plan, remember we talked about that. If the architecture doesn't have a plan, then the house will fall. It won't get finished right. So that's good to have a plan. And then we also talked about adding in. So you are going to fix some of the spelling. You are going to capitalize the beginning of sentences. This is really, really important. And that just helps you. It's another way to kind of organize, because at the beginning of a sentence is what? Do you know what we call a sentence? It's a complete
sentence.
Close. It's a complete thought. Okay, so it talks about a noun, a person, and then they have an action, that's the verb, and they do something. Amy went to the store. Okay, you're the noun, you're the person, you did something, you went, and then you tell where you went to the store. Okay, that's a complete thought. So when you start a sentence, you always want to make sure you're remembering to start it with a capital, because that way we know where those complete sentences are. And it's kind of like words. If you jumbled all the words together, could you read it? Yes. Would it be easy? No, because you're like, oh, where does this word start? And it's kind of the same as sentences. Sentences are a little easier than words jumbled up together, or pushed together. But if you have the sentences separated with the period and a beginning, capital at the beginning, then you know, okay, this is where this complete thought is, and that's where that thought ends. And it's less confusing. For instance, if I said, Amy went to the store, she bought apples, and I just saw the part, went to the store, she bought apples, I'm like, I don't know where to start, I don't know where to begin, but if I know Amy went to the store, she bought apples, it makes a lot more sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to go through. I want you to look at all your beginning sentences, and I want you to work on capitalizing them. And then I want you we'll talk about working on a conclusion. But right now, I want to give you a few minutes to do to kind of work on your spelling. Some of the ones we already looked at, we kind of went over a lot of the spelling. But I want you to look at all the beginning of your sentences, your complete thoughts, and see if you can't find where you need to make capitals. Okay?
No, warm up is these. Okay?
Oh yeah, Brian said he was doing
Move on to the lesson.
Okay, now we do it. Okay, 1.5.
Okay.
Eat.
Yeah.
There.
Oh, excuse me.
This way too.
4.
Mhm.
7, 8,
Mhm.
2,
Nope. Okay, turn 44 is what F is. But what do you got to find out? You got to find out what 2 F is.
So 100 to 244.
Yeah, it is 244. F stands for feet, but that's not what you had to figure out.
Joe wants
Here. Oh, it is, because you did do, yeah, you did do, okay, look at that. Okay, look, I was looking at the wrong thing. So two walks on the pier is 488, so you gotta divide it by half, and so you did do it right, 244 feet.
Okay.
I read it wrong. He said that you wouldn't be on that with him, so you just went and did his math and then frustrated that, because he's supposed to do his math first. He needs help. He can't do it on his own, and if we just push him up, but he wants to get his work done, he wants to get his schoolwork done, so he just gets it. And I'm not happy with that. I don't think he's doing it because I just want to know him frustrated. Alright, bye.
Okay. Let's go.
People must have gone away and watch the crumbs. Ouch, sorry. Yeah.
So what's that? 11 more. 225 fish. Fillet.
That's pronounced fillet. That's a French word, fillets.
Okay.
Fish fillets, but that's not the right answer.
20,000.
After these commas, do I have to capitalize too, or just at the beginning of a sentence?
Just the beginning of a sentence, because a comma's job is to connect things in a sentence, to kind of separate some incomplete thoughts, sort of, or to, like, for instance, if I say the flag is red, white, and blue, I have a comma between red and white. But I don't. That's not a separate thought. The flag is red, white, and blue. That's one thought. So I only need to capitalize at the beginning of that thought and the period at the end of that thought.
Alright.
And the comma just kind of helps you pause, tells you where to breathe, and it kind of just tells you where where certain things are joined together inside of a sentence a little bit. For instance, I might say, my mother, Jackie, and then put commas around Jackie, because that's separating my mother, and another name for my mother is Jackie, because that's my mom's name. Okay, does that make a little bit of sense?
Yeah.
Or I'm separating the words in a list. I went to the store and bought cucumbers, salad, and grapes, so that I know these are my things in my list. And I don't want to make a list like this, because I'm writing it in a paragraph. But I want to know, hey, that way I can easily see, oh, these are all those things on my list.
Not 104,
So.
it seems to be in the form of money.
Oh, that?
But that's a good question. Okay, so let's see it. Today we went on a nature walk. Period. Good job. Capitalize. We saw a lot of cool and interesting things. Period. Capital letter. I will tell you. You can see a difference. Okay. Tell. I and E are real hard to tell the difference between. Use 7 of them. On a duck meeting, we were walking and we saw, this one's a confusing blend there, a duck, and realized then, and then we realized, that's why, because that it was meeting. The ducks were on the water. Okay, so here's where you could put a capital sentence right here. I'm just going to circle that. We're on the water, comma, so it looked like the male duck was drowning, trying to drown the female duck. I like this because I thought it was funny and weird. 2 eggs. We were
24 hours, 12 hours, 12,
enjoying our walk, and we found 5 nests.
230?
It was awesome. This here you can put a comma, because, well, we found 5 nests. It was awesome. You could actually separate that. That's one of those things you could possibly put it together Okay, I would put a capital I right there. I'm going to circle and let you finish that. It was awesome. And this one, aw, is another one of those weird balloons here. It is A-W-E. Okay? Lots of spelling rules, but I like how you just write without worrying about it. There are some kids, especially younger kids, but even kids your age, that they're so paralyzed by like the spelling and writing the sentence perfectly that they can't get out what they think. But you're not like that at all. You're really good at just putting everything on the paper, and then you can correct it. And it's a whole lot easier to go back and go, oh, I can make a few corrections right here. If you don't have anything on the paper, can we do anything with it?
No.
Nope. And it's a whole lot easier to see where you need spelling errors too.
It's like the kid who won't learn to walk. If he's gonna fall, he has to be able to walk perfectly before he even tries. Is he ever gonna learn how to walk?
No.
So if you won't even try writing unless you know how to, that you know you're writing everything, spelling everything perfectly, getting every comment, every whatever, you'll never write. You'll never write.
So the other thing too is, your mom's exactly right. And the other thing too is that when you just put it all on paper, and then you actually get to practice, you get to see where your spelling errors are, and you get to practice it and fix it. Whereas if you have someone tell you how to spell something correctly all the time, it's not the same. It's just, it doesn't stick as well. Okay, so anyways, you do a really good job with that.
Oh, yeah, now I remember.
Turtles. Okay, we need to work on spelling turtles. I'm going to write turtles here for you. We didn't get to finish all your spelling errors here. Turtles. Okay, and that is, we spotted some turtles. I'm just going to circle this one and circle this one in the water. And water does sound like an O, but it's an A. Then we saw, okay, good.
Now, you could have done that in your head if you knew that half of 36 was 18. And then you could just add
Okay.
0.
So,
But
then we saw 9 on a log. Then, kind of want to avoid repetition because we need, then we,
half of 6
okay.
is 3, and 15 plus 3 is 18.
Actually, yeah, I can put a comma after that. Then, but I would capitalize those because that's a new sentence. And sometimes you don't have to do this. But what good writers do is they look at the thing, and if I say, it was, for instance, you have awesome in here, and if I says the turtles were awesome, the duck was awesome, the nest was awesome, it gets boring. Okay? And it's more interesting and you sound smarter if you use different words. Does that make sense? If you find another word. That's why they have thesauruses. Do you know what a thesaurus is? A thesaurus, you can look at it online, your mom might even have one. A thesaurus is a book that tells you other words for the same word. So if you look up the word happy, instead of saying happy, and is a feeling inside when things are good, or whatever the definition is. It says happy, excited, joyful, content, other words that you could use. Okay? So you don't have to use a different word right there, but you probably would sound better. Then we saw a ton. Can you put on a log? Is this a turtle?
Well, I thought, so then I'm talking about turtles. I thought.
Oh, a ton. You saw a ton on a log? Okay. That's what I was thinking, but then I wasn't sure. Okay. 10 on a log. The turtles were everywhere. And everywhere is one word. W-H-E. Okay. Penguin. Oh, wait. We were pigeons. I was like, wait a minute. You didn't say pigeons. Then, so 10 on a log. The turtles were everywhere. Okay. This, I think, is You could put a comma right there. Okay. Pigeons. Pigeons is a weird spelled word. Okay. For pigeons, we were, and I still, if you were, as a good writer, remember we talked about this, if you want to go back, where you put those numbers, I would kind of just phrase it a little differently, and say, then we saw pigeons, or we were walking, because it just flows a little bit better. Because you're writing a paper, but then you're kind of making a list. If that makes sense. Like, and what you're doing is just making these lists like you're making, which is perfectly acceptable in word form. Does that make sense? Because this is more like, just putting the number there is more as you do if you were writing it like number 1, number 2. But when you're writing it out in paragraph form, you just kind of want to write that out. Does that make sense? Like, for instance, you said number 2, eggs. You just wrote a number 2 and then put eggs. I would say something like that. Then we saw eggs. I just made it to a sentence. Does that make sense? Okay. We were walking under a bridge. Okay. Okay, and walking is W-A-L-K. Actually, I should probably have you be doing the thing. I'm trying to go through it and find it. Under a bridge. Okay, bridge is B-R-I-D-G-E. Sorry about that. I didn't even think, I should have you do that. Okay. B-R-I-D-G-E. And bridge, I would use a lowercase b, so it's not a beginning of the sentence, and it's not like a specific name. If you said the Golden Gate Bridge, then I would put a capital B, but you don't. So G-E. Okay, and that is a lowercase b.
I couldn't afford to pay you what you're worth, but I wish you'd come work on her spelling for Infinity Days.
Yeah, it's seriously, spelling is one of those things you never get too old to work on. I'm still like looking up words in Google or using my spell check. I'm like, okay, how close can I get that it'll correct it for me? Okay, let's see. A bridge we saw. Okay, saw. How do you fix saw? You see me do that. Okay. And
Why did I write an E?